Welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit. Before I start, remember all the links are always in the descriptions below this video, whether you watch it on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, themarkattwoodshow.com, Telegram, wherever. Please come and join the Telegram channel, especially because I'm always active on there. And let's talk about energies today, because it has been a strange, I know a lot of you are tired. Me too. It's like being in limbo. And it's been a very challenging few months for me, I have to admit. But I know it has been for lots of you, and we're always sort of waiting for the big event to happen and all of that kind of stuff. And the advice I give to people is the same I give to myself, and that is, look, we've just got to keep holding space, looking after ourselves, enjoying every day, trying to have fun if possible, and taking care of yourself as much as possible. I'm not the best at this. I'm a bit of an idiot, to be honest, but I do my best. And I thought it would be good to get somebody on who I think really gets this, and who I was really pleased to have on my channel a few months ago. I was really, really pleased to have her perform at Manchester at the event we did, and also come to the Sahara. So please welcome back Anya.
Hi.
How's it going?
Back. I'm really glad to be back. It's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we've had an interesting few months, haven't we?
Yes, it's been a roller coaster of just such beautiful energies, just a wonderful time. I've learned so much as well. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's also been quite tough.
It's had its ups and downs.
Let's be honest.
Roller coasters, right? That's what the roller coasters are. They have peaks, they have downs, they have the scary bits, but then the bits that were really fun when you look back.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't swap the last 3 years for anything, but it's been personally extremely challenging. I've not dealt with everything as good as I could have done, but I'm trying not to beat myself up about that. I'm trying to keep everybody else chipper. Doing America and then Manchester and then the Sahara was possibly biting off more than I could chew, but it felt like I had to do them.
And you did it.
And it wasn't just physical, it was the spiritual side of it as well, the energetically. I mean, Morocco was really intense. And I don't mean we were in a desert intense. I mean, it was intense as well. So what's your take? Let's start there. What's your take on let's start with Morocco. How
Well, beautiful. And firstly, you're not an idiot. Just going back to what you said, you're not an idiot navigating this. You enlighten many people and you show them the way and you bring people together, which is following on to Morocco. I mean, it's genuinely one of the best experiences of my life. Like, I, it's one of them things where, I do understand I'm an old soul and I know kind of things that people my age do, and even people a lot older than me. But I suppose what I really realized on that retreat was how much there is to learn, but also how much I know. So it was like this great polarity of experience of like, there's so much more to this than I even understood. It was like I had seen my favorite analogy since coming back from Morocco is I had a part of the jigsaw puzzle. And in Morocco, it was like I was able to get so many of them pieces. And for the first time whilst doing this, it was like I was able to stand back and see the full picture for the first time in channeling, in receiving this information and getting all these messages. It all made clear sense as to why we're here, what we're doing, speaking with Honey and Abby and Antonia and all the guests there and the people running the retreats, the people in Morocco, the whole vibration of it. It was just truly beautiful for me, like just life changing, absolutely life changing. The amount I've learned, and also just to be me, like the one thing I really struggled with is navigating that journey on my own. When I traveled on my own and the first few days on my own, I had a bit of a wobble. And the main wobble was my own insecurities. It was like, well, what do I bring? What am I? Because I do so much. And that's kind of the thing. Like, it's a great thing, but it also means like, well, what are you? People are asking me, what do you do? And I'm like, well, everything. It's like this. I don't know what you want me to say. And it kind of, by the end of the retreat, that was like my I was like, yeah, I'll just do it all. But at the beginning, that was a real insecurity for me because I felt like I didn't have a label or a name to what I did. But the one thing I learned out of that was you don't need that. The main thing I just did is the second I got to the desert, I just was me. I just was me in my being, and I did what I do, and I just tried to just bring the light and but I didn't really try. That was the thing. I didn't have to try. It was just so natural to just get up and flow and speak with this person and go over there for a walk with them and go for some nice drink with tea with them and have a beautiful conversation. Like, it wasn't an experience where I had to try and do anything. It was just so natural and so comfortable. And yeah, like yeah, I just found it amazing. It was life changing. It really was life changing. Put everything into perspective, and the people I've met, the experiences I've learned, the memories I've made, but also like the potential of where I can see this going with people and soul energies that I've met. I know this is going to be such expansion, you know, even just working with you and Honey and Antonio and Abby and that little dream team that we made on the way down there, like that energy work that was done. I just gained so much clarity on the way down there. And yeah, you know, there was multiple energies that tested my energy throughout the week that I got triggered, and the environment, not really the desert. I loved the desert, to be fair. I was really happy there, but I suppose just the quietness of it, the simplicity of it. I live a very peaceful life, but in a very busy way. And I suppose it was quite nice for me to just slow down and to not have any plan or structure or order to that. So I really enjoyed that. That was not challenging for me. I really liked that. It was not a big deal. But it was just, I suppose, the different vibrations and my boundaries. That's what I learned a lot about, implementing my boundaries. So yeah, a lot learned. A lot learned.
Yeah, I think that's a good summation. It wasn't a holiday for me.
No,
I don't think it was really a holiday for anybody because everybody came out of it saying, "Whoa, that was life changing." That's the word that they kept using, and I was
yeah,
like, it is a I don't know how to put it into words really. It's we were doing a lot of powerful work, multidimensionally.
right.
Um,
I
but
had to.
so in order to do that, sometimes you need to create a kind of an extreme environment, like being in the desert. And although we were only like half an hour from the nearest town, it was in the desert. And and the desert is an interesting place because the energies are interesting. And it's because I've known Emma for 10 years, and how she always talks about the desert and the changes that she sees in people, and that's why I was drawn to go and do it because I'd never been there myself. No,
Right.
I lived in Morocco for 4 years, but I'd never been to the desert.
Really. And the whole environment, it Mother Nature there. Obviously, I live by trees and rivers, and I'm very much immersed in nature. But I've never been in a place quite like that, you know, and just the serenity that it held. I mean, I remember when I did my group meditation. Before that, I was a bit nervous because I've not done a group session before, and I just walked out to the desert and literally just laid down on the sand, and it was just like this sense of comfort and the. I don't think there could have been a better place, better people, better energies, better time. I think it was literally. I mean, you heard my theory on the retreat. I think it maybe has been done before in different timelines and different realities, and this was a time where it actually got done. The work that needed to get done, the people that needed to meet, the energies that needed to blend, the healing that needed to be transformed, and the knowing that came out of that retreat was just powerful on so many levels. I physically watched the transition in not only myself but everyone around me. So it was a very powerful thing to experience, and I'm very grateful to be a little last minute add-on because I was definitely felt like I was supposed to be there, and I'm really glad I was.
Well, when I first met you, I was like, I'm a good spotter of talent, and I was like, and do you want to come and do Manchester? Because I snuck you in there. You did about. So how many minutes did you do?
Well, I was meant to be like 15, 20, and I did 14, 14, which I found really cool. It was bang
Yeah,
on 14, 14.
and you got a standing ovation, and then you sang, and it was just brilliant. Which is why I'm inviting you back to Manchester to do a,
I'm
a,
excited.
a bigger chunk with Tara by Janine and Tom Numbers, and we're going to have some other surprise guests. That's going to be 14th, 15th, 16th of April. I'll put a link below this video for you guys if you want to come to these events. We're also doing a gala dinner in Ireland, I think on the 19th of April, and there's an email list you can sign up to below to get onto that so that you're the first to know when tickets are released for these events. And I think these events, despite being exhausted by the recent last 3 months, I think they're still extremely important. I mean, I love performing anyway. I love getting up on stage, and I love sharing information and making people laugh if possible, and that kind of stuff. But it has been very surreal because I'd been sat here talking to a computer for 2.5 years, 3 years, whatever,
Right.
and suddenly meeting everybody. And it was really, really important to meet these people. And throughout the American tour, at the Manchester gig, I was explaining to everybody, because the audience is so, so, so important. And the
Mhm.
people that came on the retreat are so important, because we're all old souls that have chosen to be here at this time, and we're all performing multidimensional work, whether we realize it or not. And we are all points of light. And to bring all those points of light together in a venue like we did in Manchester, in a venue like we had in the Sahara,
Mhm.
the venues that we did in America as well, is extremely important spiritual work. But it can also be fun at the same time. The only thing I found weird was that I was in the desert with 50 people that knew me, but I didn't know them.
I know. Yeah,
And
they do have an idea of, when people don't know you from off screen, they have an idea of what they think you are rather than who you are. So that was quite a better navigation journey to understand.
it was. I got slightly overwhelmed by it at one point,
Yeah.
and and all I could think of was, well, oh God, I hope I'm not letting them down. That's all I could think of. So it was, and then plus that guy died on the first day,
Oh my
which was
God.
extremely
So
shocking and difficult.
think
But
about
but we survived. We got through, and it was interesting. It was extreme. All of it's been super interesting, and it's
it.
bringing a lot of the work that I've been doing kind of virtually into the real world, which is a great privilege to do. But I'm just saying, it's been
No, and like I said, I was privileged and grateful to be a part of it, because I've not really been on this online world. So for me to kind of just do like one little thing and then be like, "Hi, I'm here," it was kind of a great little fast track for me, and to meet all these people that, if I'm being honest, I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know. I'd not met. I don't really use my phone. I'm not really online much. I'd found you, like I said, through other channels, and that's why I just sent you that email. So I didn't know anybody there. I didn't have a preconception or any ideas of anyone, and I was just blown away by the whole phenomenon, because, like I said just before we jumped on, the adjustment for me was going. Like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So when I went there, being in an environment with 50 more, plus the staff and everybody else, the people, the energy of these people just holding space for each other, and not just that, like just getting up, and everyone's in tune with energy. So everyone's just like blending with each other's energy. Someone's having an off day, someone's going over there giving reflexology and healing, and the pure love and energy that I felt on that week, and I noticed it coming back when I hit the UK. I had not realized how hard I found it on a personal level to navigate that, and how intense the energy was here. I traveled back with Judith and Jane, and when they left in the train station and I was getting on the train in Manchester, it was like this shock. And I was like on the train and I fully just started crying. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I was so emotional, because it was this readjustment to this density, and I looked around and everyone is so in pain. Like,
mm,
that's what I noticed, the pain. And I've heard a few people saying this, coming to the conscious realization that the countries that are supposedly westernized and more modernized are so disconnected,
yeah.
because we was in, without any intentional disrespect, some not wealthy places, and yet the people there were so joyful and so humble and so kind and loving. And it just goes to show the expansion and the experience, that it really does not matter what financial wealth and what material gain you have, if there is no quality of life within the soul, no connection to the soul, first of all, then what's the point? It's just like being a robot. It's just what, and that's what I observed when I came back. I think I'd desensitized from it in order to function and do the work I was doing before. But because I'd been not exposed to it, and for what felt like quite a while in the desert, because the time's extended, you just feel like you're there forever. But in a beautiful way, you don't want to leave. So it's like this, yeah. But
So
yeah, and
I didn't want to leave.
no, it
Looking
was
back,
powerful.
yeah.
Powerful. Yeah, it was such a powerful experience. But yeah, I realized the density of, not just the UK, but for my personal experience, the UK and specifically where I live, like it just felt so dark and depressing. And obviously I know it's winter, so it's dark earlier, but that doesn't help, it just felt so heavy. And I've really had to navigate, and I still think I'm navigating. And I'm meeting up with some of the people from Morocco tomorrow in Glastonbury. So I'm really excited for that. I think that's going to be a really grounding experience, just to be back in the a mixture of that energy. So I'm
You go
really,
down to do solstice on the
yeah,
21st in
going to do
Glastonbury?
this. Yeah, I'm driving down with Susie. So
That's
I've been working with Susie a lot past few days, so past few weeks. So
I I acquired this in Glastonbury the other week.
oh, I love that. I still personally think it's a little shamanic skull for you.
Oh, it is. I mean,
Very, very shamanic work.
so many synchronicities happened in Glastonbury. It was just meeting people in the street, in the pub. It was nuts. It was brilliant.
I'm excited. I've never been.
Well, I think you'll end. I was there going, I think I should move here. And I was talking to I met Drew the Druid, right? This guy,
Ooh.
yeah. So really interesting guy, and he said, "Well, Glastonbury is a place you might not want to live here full time." And I was like, why? He said, it's a mirror.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting.
Yeah,
Maybe I needed to know that before going down.
it's an intense energy down there, and it's there's a lot of amazing people there, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of light worker energy, but there's also infiltration there, and it's a
Right. I
very
feel like that's why I've been called there at the moment. I don't really claim to go off and do energy work. I don't really, I suppose without sounding like a twat, I just don't like to claim ego for it, you know.
oh
I
no,
just
no, same here,
I
because
do what
I
I do. And,
yeah,
'cause I'll just be going on walking, smoking my little J, like doing my life, as then whilst I'm like, "Oh god, I need to shut down this portal here and let these spirits go, and there's fairies over there," and I just kind of like to just do it in my own world, but I am really drawn to go down. I mean, I was drawn the other day to go for a full moon swim, at night where I go at this reservoir, and I go there all the time. So I've been loads of times. But I went, and it's first time since going to Morocco with this new understanding. And oh my god, the energy work I was called to do, it was next level, you know. So definitely my consciousness has unlocked some new understandings, capabilities, whatever. So I did it. I did some energy work the other day, which was good. It was good. It was intense, but it was good. So I'm definitely called to do whatever I'm gonna go do down there. I have no idea. I just want to go and spread some good juju on the
yeah.
land.
Well, I got taught this stuff about 12 years ago. I had a mentor called Jim, who very quietly for 50 odd years had been clearing spaces, releasing souls that were trapped, like at the Battle of Hastings. He said there were
Yeah.
thousands of soldiers there that had been trapped there for 1,000 years, and they needed to be released. And he
Wow.
had he had a mentor that had been working with ETs and stuff for years. We're going back 70, 80 years between just the two of those guys, and they taught me about. Well, Jim taught me a lot about this work. Because the teacher appears when the student's ready. Although, as at the time, I don't think I was ready.
I mean,
Um,
right.
but obviously I was,
Yeah.
that's the way it works. And then you go, a lot of the great work that's being done on this planet is being done by very quiet people that are not public, and they're just quietly getting it done.
Yeah.
And they don't go around saying they're saving the world. They're just doing the work.
Totally.
They're
Yeah.
just doing the work. And
Like effort, right? It's
yeah,
we're all putting a part in the piece. And the thing is, I'm the opposite. I can't stand it. I'm like cringing now. I'm like, "Oh," the thought of being in the limelight, I just really, it's just not for me. And it's, you know,
well,
one of them.
the thing is that what I said to you was
Yeah.
what I said to you was there is a time that a lot of us do have to stand into the limelight in order to give other people the strength that they need to find their
Mm,
truth and their sort their own healing out and clear their own trauma. I mean, I'm still going through this process. It's like an endless. It's like
right.
Shrek. It's like Shrek's onion. It just keeps there's layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. But I don't know if I told you this story, but when we were in the desert
Yeah.
and we went to the town, Mohammed, to
Yeah.
do a bit of shopping and give the kids some
Oh,
presents.
so that was my favorite part of the trip.
Yeah, it was amazing. It
My
was
favorite
amazing. But my favorite part of the trip was actually I went to this little Hanut, which is a little shop, and we're talking about if you've never been to Morocco, the towns look like they're half built, and
yeah,
the
beautiful.
Hanut, the people are amazing. But and there was this. I went to this Hanut to buy some cigarettes, and there was a guy behind the counter, and he was talking to two of the women on the retreat, and I was listening to him, and he was quoting Shakespeare at them, he was quoting poetry at them, he had them completely entranced, and I was listening to him, and then started joining the conversation, and it was just an amazing conversation at
Oh,
like 11 a.m. on a Friday morning with the guy in the cigarette shop. He was just talking about philosophy. He was amazing. And while he was talking, I got this out of my wallet, which is
I love
which was
that.
which was given to me in the States on tour. And
Oh,
I said, "What do you think to this guy?" And he grabbed it off me and he looked at it and he went, "Oh, I love this man." Right. And I thought, this is really interesting. And I said,
God.
why do you love this man? He said, because he speaks from here. And
Mm,
we love that. And I thought the irony was that I've had friends in Morocco that fell out with me in 2020 because of my support of him,
yeah,
and that because they were calling him a racist, and I was like, well, no, he's not. And that moment in the desert just proved it to me,
yeah.
because these people are much more connected to the earth and to nature and everything else. And when you are like that, you can see through what's going on in the media, because everybody else is being controlled by the media.
You
And
know
these
what? It's really interesting you brought that up though, because that guy on the money was an interesting um role in my journey and mine and Trisha's journey, because and I understand why now after Morocco and having that enlightenment to it. So throughout the journey, I struggled to resonate with
Mm,
not necessarily what they're doing, what they're saying, the energy being. And that's just my personal opinion. When I was like, well, Trish should be watching it all, watching the on the follow it. It's hard to, you can't say the words that the 17th letter of the alphabet. She was
yeah,
watching them, and she was showing me stuff, and I was never disagreeing with it, fully resonating with what they were saying and the things that we're doing in Parliament, the acts, the bills, the work that was being done, fully resonant, fully understood. But I didn't resonate with the actual brand, if you will, the energy of it. And I was like, it's just not me. She was like, I'd go to rallies and everything. I was like, nah, it's just not my thing. And so then later on, I questioned it. I was like, why am I one of the only people in this journey that's like, nah, like, I'll just do me. I like to get my information. I like to be unfiltered, I suppose. And then I realized lately the reason why, multiple reasons, but one of the reasons is I'm very literal. So I'm like, right, it's going to happen now. It's going to happen now. And if I'd have been told information, which I think you mentioned at the beginning, and then there'd been certain times and dates and things, and then I'd felt disheartened from that, would that have made me question my own personal journey, rather than just being told the information I've been downloaded in from my guides, my spirit, my source? And also another reason I think is there was different roles, as Honey explains, and as Dolores kind of talks about, the bridges, the builders, the healers, and a lot of individuals needed to know on a physical level that this work is being done. And he is a great representation of this work is being done, and it's being led by people that know what they're doing and know what is going on by the subliminal messages, the information in the media. But there's also a different generation of people, or not even generation, a different people with different missions, different callings, that are there to pull down any authority. And I think I fall into that category. And I think that's where it felt foreign to me, is listening to anyone else to tell me how I need to live or when I need to do something. Like, it just needed to come from my own guidance and my own direction. And I've really kind of come to some understanding of peace now, because it used to make me doubt, like, everyone around me is like, "Duh, duh, duh," and I'm like, well, I just don't feel it though. It's just, I can't lie if I don't feel it. I don't feel it. So it's really interesting that you brought that up, because it was never, I could at first, I definitely could see why the media were twisting it in that way, and I could see through the media. But I used to be a feminist. I used to call myself a feminist, so there was times where I bought into the media divide. So I think a lot of us go through this journey to understand and to see, and I could see clearly what he represented and what he was doing on a legal official level. The work was, you can't deny the things that were done. It's just on a personal energy level, I didn't resonate. And I think it's quite interesting that, no matter who you resonate with on this journey, know that there is people out there that are doing the work, and there's people out there like that I see. And this is a really contentious one. I'm going to go there though. The whole gender thing and the whole energies that are going on, like, for me, I find it quite difficult, because there's this new wave of people that are quite spiritual connected. I understand the inversion of the masculine and feminine, what's going on there. That is just whack, in the schools and the indoctrination with children. That's just deep elite agendas going on there, fully aware of that. But what I find difficult is the people that genuinely think they're kind of not conforming to gender social norms and trying not to push that agenda, but also they're kind of buying into it. I'm mixing up my words, but I think what I'm trying to explain is, we can all have different understandings, different translations of the way it resonates with us, and still be connected in with our source, our truth, our light, still be spreading love, even if the way we translate it might not be the way someone else translates it. Like, translation is an impersonal interpretation, and that can be varied depending on your experiences, your personal healing. It's all tied into that. And I think it's important not to judge your own beliefs based on the person next to yours, you know?
I completely agree, and it's what came to mind as you were talking is that this idea that life is one big initiation ceremony, and
Mhm.
I also I said that the desert was like an ayahuasca trip, a journey. It was, and life is like one big
Yeah, it
hallucinogenic journey,
is. It is.
and and you get precisely what it is that you need. So I've talked about this with trips on mushrooms and ayahuasca before, because people say, "Oh, I've had a really bad experience, or I had a bad trip, or evil demons were there and stuff like that." And I'm like, "No, you had exactly what you needed."
Mhm.
And I've always had extremely good experiences in with psychedelics. Most of the time, I've also had some scary experiences with them, and but it was exactly what I needed. And once I realized everything's exactly as it's meant to be, somebody like Donald Trump is playing an incredibly important role
Powerful,
in
powerful.
the spiritual awakening,
Yeah.
but people get that confused with what's going on in 3D,
Yes.
because and I love the way he just trolls them to death. It's just brilliant, what's happening there, and it is people. The whole thing's kind of there to remind you that it is a spiritual war, that you do have a particular role, and you don't
Mhm.
have to agree with everybody's version of events.
Right, right.
And that's what this is.
Mhm.
It's like going through this process of, like, for example, seeing truthers fall out with each other online, right?
Yeah,
That's been really tough for people, and it's led people to sort of not have faith in truthers. And good. I've
yeah.
I've been saying since day one, since I started my channel, you don't need a guru. You are the guru.
The faith in other people to tell you when to rise.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, it's good to have people to listen to help you on the
Mhm.
journey, but
Yeah, yeah.
nobody else is a guru. You're the guru, and that
Mhm.
means you are the center of attention of your own journey and your own situation. Because I've been through experiences where I've come to completely different conclusions to other
I was
people,
just gonna say that. Yeah, yeah, me too.
but I don't fall out with people because we disagree. And I've had to come to some of my own truths about
Mhm.
my own life, about sexuality, about all these deeply personal things, and I'm coming to conclusions that don't fit with society's norms.
Yeah,
And and again, that's another way of it's another way of working through resistance to get to where you need to get to personally.
yeah. 100%.
Um, yeah, so
100%.
it's all good. In other words, even when it's bad, it's good.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's the interpretation and it's the understanding of, as you say, I've had some very, very, very one of the most powerful, beautiful, life-changing experiences on psychedelics, but then also one of the most traumatizing experiences. But that traumatizing experience taught me how powerful I am.
Yeah,
So it was all hand in hand, and it all came for a specific reason. And just as you were saying there, the problem is when you have these. This is why I really struggle again with the label thing, because I don't want to be a mentor, I don't want to be a coach, I don't want to be your guru that's above you. And no, because I'm still going through my shit just like you. I just might have been through what you're going through, so I might be able to get through that a bit easier. Don't mean that you're not going to come help me in the same thing. And it's all about this exchange. And I've followed people, and I was always getting information downloads, but I didn't have confidence in my own information enough to publish it. And then I was seeing other people that I was following, and they were saying it, and I had such confirmation from what they were saying because I was getting that, and then they'd post it online, and it was confirmation. And then I'd either meet these people or I'd gain more information, and they was the complete opposite of what I actually thought they were on an energetic level. And that for me was like really disheartening, because it then made me question myself. And this is exactly the point, because I then questioned everything I mean, I full on hit 3D. I hadn't gone that bad in years. And I spiraled. I was like, oh my God, no wonder they all think we're mental. Are we in a cult? What is going on? Like, and if you don't have that experience in this journey, then you're lying, because you will at some point. Because it is, there's got to be a point when you get this deep in to the extra dimensional, to the parallel universe, to the dome, to the shift, to everything that's going on, where you go, what the actual fuck is going on? Is this real? And if you don't, then there's something wrong with you. No, I'm joking, but there is definitely a question. It's part of being the human experience. You can be as enlightened soul as you want, but you're still in a human vessel, living in a human experience, and you cannot punish yourself for experiencing these things. I put faith and trust and belief in someone that then was not what I thought, which then made me question me. But what I learned from that is, do not put your confidence and beliefs and energy depending on someone else, put that on yourself. Because then you're not false, you're coming from true authenticity. So no, I can never be perceived to be something that I'm not, because I just come through as me.
Yeah.
That was a lot of words.
Yeah. Well, you're good at words. It, yeah, it's as Charlie Wood would say, what a wonderful journey. It is.
Right.
It is a journey, and a journey is what they call ayahuasca. You go on a journey, not a trip, but trip, same sort of thing, same sort of word. But that's what all of this is. And by the way, if you're watching this and you haven't heard of what's it called? Oh God, there's an amazing book about psychedelics by Christopher Everard. I mentioned it on another show. The ancients had these connections with the plants and with nature and everything else, and we've all been cut off from that. So it's kind of like we've woken up into this world blind,
Yeah.
really, and some of us that have been through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s have come through a thicker soup. And I
Right.
think, that's why we've needed characters like Donald Trump to just
Yeah.
show there is a light here.
Yeah.
And you haven't necessarily needed that because you come in to do this different thing. And that's why
Mhm.
I like the Dolores Cannon breakdown of all of this. And the fact that we're watching Tarot by Janine, we're watching Honey C. Golden, we're watching Anya, we're watching all these amazing people. We're going to mystics and psychics and tarot readers for our information or to help us
Mhm.
find information about ourselves. And I certainly, as anybody watching this channel for any amount of time knows, I will always. I often have the piss taken out of me that I've had too many healings and I do too many things, but I think that's just my role.
Yeah.
My role is to go and do as much stuff as possible and then report back, and then you take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And that's really what I think all of this is about. Is learning how to take it or leave it. It's learning how to let go. Letting
Mhm.
go has been my key message for 3 years, and I'm still being challenged on letting things go.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's not stopping, but it's like consciousness itself is a ever expanding thing,
Definitely.
which is why there is no end to this. It
Mhm.
is like we're in the soup right now, and we're all trying to manifest our way out of it into a better life. And I believe that's happening. I know it's happening.
Yeah.
But
I see.
it's gonna have pain on the way, which is why I think that this channel, for example, just with loads of different channels, and go wherever you need to go. But channels like this exist in order to show the world people like you that are coming up, and your role is starting to emerge, and people are going to want to connect with that,
Yeah.
and that's part of the mission.
Mhm.
It's like I always feel like it's teamwork, even if I've spoken to people before that I end up not speaking to, or for whatever reason, I just feel like, well, that's because that job's done.
Right, we've all got a role, and I always used to question myself, because I go through a lot of friends, and I'm like, surely this is me, because the look around, the common factor is me. But then I realized, no, I heal. I get healed from them. They get healed from me. We learn from each other. The exchange is done. The contract, the exchange, whatever you want to call it.
Then you
And
move on.
yeah, and there's so much, and the point is, now we're all learning how to do it ourselves. So my job now, well, my job has always been, but now I understand it more. It's like, how can I teach others how to do that yourself? Because the point is, we're all healers, we're all readers, we're all whatever, we're all tapping into them abilities. It's just some came online quicker, and I do feel there's a lot of intense things going to be happening over the next year or so. I mean, specifically now, what's going on now is there's so much inner child trauma coming up. You know, so much inner child, inner teen, suppressed, repressed trauma. Those of us that have lived as life in fight or flight, manic mode, survival mode, it's like hitting us like a ton of bricks, you know. And like you said about the soup, it's almost extra thick at the moment, you know, because as much as the darkness, the entities, the shit around us has been removed a lot. That's a lot lower percentage than it was last year and the years before. However, it's almost like that's now turned down, but now the stuff inside is allowing itself to come out. And it's the deeper layers, like you said at the beginning, the onion, because a lot of, you know, and I don't mean this in any disrespect to anyone, but a lot of people that I'm working with, you know, they're healers, they're like, oh, I've been healing 50 years, 30 years. I've dealt with that, I'm done with that. And I'm like, yeah, you have, consciously. But on your subconscious level, you're still running the program, which is why it's still coming up in the readings, in the healings, in these sessions. It wouldn't even come up in the auric field if it were gone, if it were done, dealt with, it wouldn't be there. You know, so when it's being present, when you're thinking about it, or when it's been brought up, or when someone's talking about it and you keep getting the same topic being brought up and it keeps making you think of the same experience, it's something that needs to be released. And, you know, releasing can be crying for days. It can be just letting it out for 10 minutes. It can be a whole different experience. Some people like to work really fast, really quick, really efficiently. I'm really emotional. So I've been really crying the past few days, really up and down, really sensitive, and really just kind of, but I'm cool with that. I'm just like, you know what, it's fine, because that's what I just need to do right now. And I'm not playing into it, I'm not feeding it. But when I need to do it, I'll just cry, and I just let myself cry without being punishing or feeling weak or trying to hide that, you know. And being vulnerable is a new concept to me. I'm not a very vulnerable person, you know. I don't like being read a lot, and I'm a reader, so just an FYI. But yeah, a lot of trauma's coming up for a lot of normies, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but a lot of normal people and normal people that are dealing with this, but also spiritually awakened people and spiritually connected. And this is the point I wanted to make earlier. So many of us are subconsciously connected. So I was doing work for years, like this energy work we was talking about, what you triggered earlier when you was on about the guy in the Battle of Hastings. It made me think about when I was about 18, 19, and my mum took me to Scotland with Brad and my family. And I was literally on the Battle of Culloden, and I was sobbing. I was laid there, so I have no reason to, but I was so, my heart was pounding, and I was lit. I knelt on the ground. My mum was like, "I'll leave you here. I'll come back when you're ready. I'll come to the car." And I just sat there for an hour crying there. So that obviously I had no idea what I was doing. I was just 19. And I still had no idea why. But obviously, when you look in hindsight, the subconscious work of why you were around that person, why you had that conversation, why you bought that crystal, or even just why you were in that presence. Like, we're all working subconsciously right now, and it's time for them subconscious and conscious connections to be made now. And that's where the blockages, the pain that's in between there, is having to be released so that the subconscious and conscious mind can be reconnected on a deeper level.
Yeah, and it dawned on me, I've said this a few times on the channel, it dawned on me 4 or 5 years ago. Firstly, relationships have been breaking down left, right, and center, right? And 3D, especially through COVID, there's been tons of that. And then there were COVID relationships because everybody was forced in, you know, in the house and started going on online and doing all that kind of stuff. And that's all part of this as well. And everybody has been throughout their lives exactly where they're meant to be, you know. And this really hit me because I remember, because I'm starting to write a book called Adventures in a Cosmic Suit: The Spiritual Awakening of an Idiot, but I keep getting told you can't call yourself an idiot. The reason why I call myself an idiot is because I've done so many stupid things, and
Yeah.
I want other in my life, and I want other people to know it's okay.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get
Yeah,
that completely, because it's the same thing. When I was doing the Manchester event, I said to my dad, I want to write in, what I want to say is, you know, when people ask me how long I've been doing this, I always say, well, I've always been a weirdo. And for me, it's not a bad thing. I don't think being a weirdo is a bad thing, but everyone's like, oh, you can't call yourself a weirdo.
yeah, I know.
People think you don't love yourself. And I'm like, no, I fucking love myself. I just think I'm a weirdo and I love it, you know? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So it's just, it's what vibes with you. But you know, it's what you think that people are gonna receive it as well.
Well, it's also British self-deprecating humor as well. So
Right?
I may or may not stick with that complete title. But when I started writing it, the first line I wrote, because a good friend of mine suggested that I started at the lowest point in my life, which was about 4 or 5 years ago, and the opening line was what the fuck am I doing here?
Right.
Right? Because I just remember standing in the cottage doorway. I just moved from a 5-bedroom villa in Marrakesh, moved to Ireland, split up from my wife. I thought I'd lost everything. I was drinking loads. I was a complete mess, and I was suicidal. And I stood at the door looking. I had this really bleak view of a horrible forest. It wasn't nice. It was one of those disgusting forests that they've been
Yeah.
placing all over Ireland. You just like crammed in these horrible trees that ruin the, it's another story. But it was just misty, freezing cold, rain, and I just like, what the fuck am I doing here? And I think a lot of people would relate to that because a lot of people that I've spoken to over the last few years have like, oh, now I understand why I moved to this place or I went to this place, and all the connections between everything have just been amazing. You know, I was looking at a TV show that I wrote about 25 years ago, and in that TV show, I wrote a character who was a counselor who was being blackmailed by the character that I was playing for going on council-funded trips to Morocco. And I was writing about Morocco,
2020.
never, ever thinking that I'd end up living there or,
How hilarious is that?
and this is how it's kind of transpired. That's why I'm writing the book, because I just want to show that as you go through your life, you start, how does that relate to now? How does that relate to now?
Yeah.
Have you pieced that together yet? Because I think one of the most important thing through this whole spiritual quarantine time is that we're all discovering who we really are,
Yeah.
and it's being released. The information is being released to us on you can never get more than you can cope with,
No.
you know, and it comes through people, it comes through circumstances, it comes through situations, information. That's why I think it has been important to have people online creating their own platforms and channels, because it creates that a place for people to go when they need that information or when they're ready for it. And the teacher appears when the student's ready, and you just have all these wonderful, well, I've had all these wonderful experiences of going, oh yeah, that's why I did that. That's why that happened. That's what, now that makes it. Oh, why did I do that job for that period of time? Oh, because I learned this skill that I'm now using 30 years later to do this. And do you know? And it's just, why was I born with a singing voice? Why was I not born with a singing? It's
Mhm.
just, and it's everything's okay, because everybody is exactly who they're meant to be, and they're exactly where they're meant to be, which is a deep spiritual lesson that has taken me years to understand. But I do get it, and it's helped me out enormously in the low points, because even when I was like suicidal, I was in the shower going, okay, everything's exactly as it's meant to be, and then my other voice is going, is it really? This is fucking awful. And it was like being in Groundhog Day. I just all I remember is being
Oh
in
god, yeah.
being in the shower at 8 a.m. and
Yeah.
going, right, what, I'm back in the same day again. What's
Right.
going on? But and then now talking out loud about things like timelines collapsing, your
Yes.
higher self, the shape of the earth,
The
deep
don't.
demonic entities,
Yeah.
energies, and I'm still an amateur in this. I don't preach it like I've studied it and I've got a doctor, and I'm a teacher.
Mhm.
I'm kind of like a guide for people that are evolving at the same time.
Yeah. And
And
that's same. I agree with that. I like that.
yeah, and it's okay to get it wrong. It's okay to make mistakes. But again, this period that we're in right now is a period of where we're allowed to travel again. I say allowed,
Mm.
you know what I mean by that.
No,
We
no, I
we
get
are, we are traveling again. We are meeting people. We are doing this work, and sometimes then again that brings its own new set of challenges.
Yep. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, I've experienced like I mean multiple things that song that I sang in Manchester, that for me was the time I had that moment where you was talking about at your cottage. I was sat here on the floor in the living room, just like, what could I, what, I think it was 2020, about maybe June, and I just thought, like, is this life now? Like, how am I meant to live a life and have children in a world like this? Like, there's just no way. So I'm sat there like, I'm not. I don't want to be here anymore. I can't be on this planet. What am I here to do? And then, like I said, the song just came on, and I just heard the first intro, and I just heard the words, and there was a specific line in it. The Palo Nutini Iron Sky, but the specific the quote that the guy says as well, Charlie Chaplin, that's powerful. But there's one line that says, "You've just got to hold on," and it just kept replaying and replaying in my head. And then a year later, from that year, I'm marching the streets of London protesting, and it's 3 million of us. and that song comes on live again, powerful, and then singing it on stage and getting a standing ovation the year after that, and just connecting in. So it just goes to show that, like you say, when you in that moment, it feels so dark and so lost and so hopeless. But little did I know that specific moment would be my driving force and the reconnection. Like every time I sing that song, it takes me back to the power and the reason why that song meant so much to me in the first place, because I remember how I feel, and it's such a powerful ignition. Like it ignites the fire within, ignition. That's the word I meant to say. But yeah, and then connecting on from that, like I have no idea what the fuck I'm gonna say, but yeah, anyway. It's just gone. It's gone. But the point is, you just don't ever know where it's gonna go in that moment, whichever part you're at in your journey. I've seen so many people. My brother used to be, I mean, he's always kind of stood in his truth, but never had the energy, the passion, the vocality of what, what's going on. And he's coming the other day, he's been talking about this, and it's like, why I don't understand why people still getting it. And I'm like, bro, you still there? I don't even think about this anymore. And it's just, but it's great that he's at that place in his awakening, he's at that place in his journey to even start questioning these things, and to be angry about it, to have his voice, because I've been there and I've navigated through that. So we all have a role at different times, and like you were saying about the truthers, they still need to be sharing their things, because there's still people that need to see that. But it doesn't mean that we're resonating with still doing that. We shift up and start talking about the timelines, and the timelines were a really big thing for me, because I remembered what I was going to say. There you go, it came back full loop. Because I kept seeing military presence, bad military presence in 2020, like, coming in the houses and camps and da da da, and I was terrified. I was really terrified. And then obviously, thank the white hats that it didn't actually end up happening in this timeline. But then recently, with the mention of military presence again to calm the panic, people have been talking about it, really triggered some severe PTSD in me that I didn't even know was there. And I think that's a really important thing to acknowledge, that a lot of us are probably carrying some form of PTSD in some way from the experience we've just been through. I mean, 99% guaranteed, in one way or another, we'll have some form of post traumatic stress disorder from these experiences. And it's just really important to acknowledge where and in what way, because the second that were mentioned, even though it were for good, I still got triggered, like, well, why? Well, the imposing of my, like, well, what do you mean? So it forced me to acknowledge and identify maybe the trauma that I'm carrying from even rising up, from even stepping into his power. Are we still carrying even trauma right up until that point as well? And I think it's just important that when we're releasing trauma, it's the onion, man. There's so many layers to it, and you're never going to get to the full layer of being healed. Otherwise, you'd be back at source. That's the whole point. You just keep navigating the journey of healing, and then you get to past lives and parallel universes and all the different dimensional things. And you can't ever fully be a healed vessel. You wouldn't be in a human body. That's just not a thing, But in my opinion, anyways.
No, I totally agree. And when it's challenging, I know, the interesting thing about social media is you get the instant feedback on stuff. And if I say something like, look, you just got to keep holding on, and people are like, I'm just fed up of holding on. When's this show going to end? When's it? And it's like, it's and sometimes I go, well, am I serving a purpose anymore? Is this worth continuing with? Is it? And then it always comes back. Yes, it is. You got to keep going and keep going and keep going, and never, ever, ever give in.
Yep. Because that's what they want. That's the whole point. And one thing me and Trish have been speaking about, because she had a wobble last week, like she never wobbled. She makes me feel, which I told her this, so she'll laugh, but I always feel like, because Trish she deals with such a higher level, she's like, yeah, but it's all for a reason, it's all for, and I'm like crying, like, yeah, but the people, it's so sad, and I have this human connection to I'm an empath, I feel it intensely, and she done. And last week she had this whole realization moment of everything on a real level, and she was like, going through it. And when we was talking about it, I was saying to her, as we're navigating this journey at this time, there's going to be experiences of panic, fear, all these different human emotions, and it's just about remembering what we've seen, what we've heard, what resonated with us before. Like, if it wasn't, and this is where I had understanding and empathy, because I'm a psychic medium. I've always been in touch since I was a child. I've had visions of the earth and had sensitivity to it. So it's easy for me to say, oh yeah, it's easy for us to say, oh, just hold on, we're getting confirmation and messages every single day, every single day we're getting confirmation and reminders and subliminal and messages from everywhere because we look and because we see them. But for those that are not receiving that information, it must be harder for them to navigate that journey. And that's why it's so important for people like you and me and us to just keep spreading the information we're getting so that they get that light and that confirmation. Because every time I ever doubt it, I go back. I mean, when I did doubt it and hit 3D that one time massively, I looked up and it was the stars, the aliens, the ETs, the remembrance of what I felt, what I know, everything that I've experienced in my own journey. I feel like, yeah,
Big one there.
yeah.
There's another big one.
Yeah, everything I felt, it was like, how can you ever doubt? You can't doubt that just because someone that you followed, that you agreed with, is not what you thought, does not mean, or whatever it is that makes you question it, that you've seen something, or the date didn't happen, or the football they were not at, whatever it was, just remember the inner feeling, the inner intuition, because there's always a reason why you're even here, following, watching, listening, even at doing this today, because there's a reason why your soul's activated. If you didn't have a purpose and a role, you just wouldn't be even on this frequency.
Exactly. And anybody watching, I've had a wobble the last couple of weeks. It's
Mhm.
part of it. It's
Me too.
okay. It's okay. It's
Part
okay.
mhm.
It's, it's
Yeah.
this is a big job.
And it doesn't last for long, like, that's the thing, like, you will wobble, and in that I was horrible at Trish because I was just laughing, like, she's going, "Are we in a cult?" I was like, "I know, I thought it was in a cult." She was
I,
like
I, I actually said that to myself in the car today. I was like, wait, maybe I am in a cult.
Honestly, that's what she said. She was like, "But are we though?" And I was like, "Honestly, I understand why people think that now, because when you have that moment of realization, like when you're in it and you live in it and you're talking to spirits and you're working with aliens and you're doing this and you're healing them and you're seeing this subconscious and you're channeling and you're getting, you don't question it. But then that one moment when you do and you take a
Yeah.
step back and you're like, fuck, like
Ah,
this is deep now. This is deep. And it really, yeah. And I was horrible at Trish. Well, I won, but it's what she needed because we laughed through it. And it allowed me to get it out because no one were there when I were melting down. So it allowed me to get my meltdown out vicariously through her. So we just both had a little mini meltdown, laughed about it. And then half an hour later, I thought, oh, all right, then I'll carry on. And that's the point, because now what she will have and what I will have is an understanding of when people panic. And well, we've been there, it's all good, we've all been there, we all experience it together. That's how we can then help each other navigate through it, right? That's the whole point.
it is. I did a show with Ethan Lucas a while ago, and he told the story about one of the disciples was walking on water whilst connected to Jesus, right? But then for a split second he looked away and then just fell into the water. And that's what it's like when you're going at this incredible pace, at this higher frequency, and having these experiences, and then every now and then you'll just take a look around and go fuck, and
Right? And
then
then
you
everything's
crash.
and then you've got to just kind of climb back up again and get
Yeah.
back up to level. And it, I can say now from it's, it's okay afterwards, but in the moment it's intense, man. Like, Trish will vouch for it. She's been going through dark night of the soul these past few days. Like, that's the thing. That's one thing to remember. Just because we've been through the dark night of the soul, the purging, the emotion, don't mean it might not come back up for a little quick min. You won't stay there like we have done in the previous times, because time's sped up, healing's sped up, trauma's been released faster. So we're never going to stay there like we did. But the point is, you might feel it again. And just because you felt it one time don't mean you won't feel it another time. Like, there's a lot of ego in this spiritual world. Oh, I've done mine. It's all good. Well, no, it might come hit you back round in the face, mate, if you've still got shit stored in there that needs to come out. And that's one thing to remember, don't put yourself any higher than anyone else just because you've done work, because they've done other work you ain't done, guaranteed. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but you're helping people, and I'm going to put a link below this video where you can connect with Anya and her work and healing and all of that stuff. You've got some online stuff as
Yeah,
well.
I've got Telegram now. I've got Telegram, 2 Telegram groups. There's Tuesday development night, because we do like a Tuesday development meditation session. So it's kind of like a taster of everything. So cards, mediumship, psychic, healing, working with crystals, meditation, energy work. So we do kind of a bit of taster of everything. Then obviously I've got my website, which I offer the long-term courses, the 6-week, 8-week courses, as well as the one-to-one sessions, the healing, the channeling, the readings, and also all the jewelry, the affirmation cards, the ebooks.
Oh, if you've got any of those there to show us.
Yes, I do. So I'll get the jewelry, but I've got, obviously, there's lots of spiritual artwork. I do need to post a lot of more of that. So we've got the affirmation cards here, and the jewelry is here.
I'll just tell the viewers I had a reading with Anya in the desert with these affirmation cards, and
Oh, you did? I forgot about that.
they're fantastic.
Yeah, well, I couldn't find any affirmation cards that I liked, really. That was my vibe, you know. So I just thought, well, my partner's a graphic designer. He has his own graphic design company. So it was easy for me to create them and then design them. And then my aunt is also a graphic designer, so she printed them out for me. And they're beautiful. They're Soul Speak affirmation cards. I'll pull the collective a card if you want.
Go
Let's
on.
give everyone a little bit of love. See what we get. They're a bit sticky. And I'm also going to be doing a lot more with music lately. So I've wrote a song.
Good.
And I'm going to be incorporating the singing into spirituality and singing, because I always separate them.
Well, I really want you to do a lot of singing at the Manchester event.
Yeah, well, I'm game for that. Prefer
Yeah.
that. I like talking, but talking is new to me, especially on stage. Singing I've been doing since I was a child, so I can do that. So we've got two. We've got my meditations are marvelous. I receive guidance on whatever I need. Today I am practicing meditation. So we all need to be connecting in. And don't forget, meditating, you don't have to, it's not about that. It's just about being present in the mind. Look around, name three things you're grateful for. What can you smell? What can you see? What can you hear? What can you create in your mind? A waterfall, a field. If you can't have vision, just focus on the body's way of feeling. Focus on the breath. Focus on calming the mind down. You can meditate on the train to work, whilst you're brushing your teeth, whilst you work, literally whilst you're doing things in the day. It doesn't. People, the most common thing is I don't have time. So include it in with your life. Do it as you're literally brushing your hair. Do your affirmations, three things you're grateful for, and three big deep breaths in. There you go. You've set your mind and your body and your soul up for the day. You've reconnected it. That's how easy it is. It's just people overthink it and think you've got to sit there for 2 hours with your gongs or whatever. You really don't. Like, I just meditate in train station because I'm feeling overwhelmed. 2 minutes, headphones in, and just nothing on the headphones, just cancelling out the noise around me and just breathing. And that really just helps ground me.
I just had a flashback to outside that hotel in Marrakesh, because you were out in the garden and I was out in the garden in my bare feet, and you went, "Is that you, Mark? Are you grounded?"
Literally.
Because I really felt the need to do that, and yeah, and you were out there doing the same thing.
Honestly, the whole week, the guy kept shouting at me. The guide that took me around Marrakesh with Sunday, oh my God, he was so mad at me because I didn't wear shoes the whole way around the Medina. And he's like, you need to wear shoes. I was like, no, no shoes. And he kept proper telling me off. But I felt such a need to be grounded the whole trip. And the majority of it was easy to do so. So it was nice. And the last one is crystals, which is coming up. I am infinitely connected to each one of my crystals. They have a role in my journey. Today, I am gaining with or working with crystals. So that's about connecting in with crystals. Simple way you can do it is, this is one I made earlier. It's like that little show, Art Attack. So it's about connecting in and setting an intention with it. That's all you've got to do is connect in, set an intention with it. Is it for your third eye? Is it for your heart? Is it for protection? Is it for meditation? Is it for abundance? Is it for self-love? If you're struggling to bond with it, put it under your pillow. Just do something that you would do with a new item of clothing, with a new gift that you've bought for yourself. Connect with it and really make it yours. Claim it. Say, this is my crystal. Bond with it. Put it in your pocket. And just learn to love it. There's no specific way of working with crystals other than setting your intention and the connection with it. Make sure it's yours. But yeah, there's so much, guys, and just get on touch in the website or the Telegram. There's Instagram, Facebook, and then there's the TikTok, but that's for the singing. So I think that's Star Spirit Song, and that's for the like little voice activations. I am trying light language, but it makes me really nervous. I can do it, but I just get like cringy about doing it. So I'm working on it. I'll get there.
Yeah,
We'll get there.
I think I've been doing light language a long time, but I just saved it for the kids because I just
Right.
make them laugh, and I'll keep it there. That's where it belongs at the moment.
That's what I mean. Like, I can do it, but I find it like natural to do. But then the second the camera's coming out, I'm like, it's not for camera. Maybe it's not ready to be shared yet.
Look, everything's divine timing.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, the new song I wrote, I'm really liking that. I'll send you a preview. I wrote it the other day in like 20 minutes, which was really interesting when you was on about your book. I started in quite a dark place in my life, and people are like, oh, don't talk about that stuff, but I felt it was necessary to start there and then move the transition to the light in the chorus. So I'll send you it because it's kind of similar to what you were talking about in your book.
Yeah, well, it is a journey from dark to light, so you have to start in the dark.
Right. I like that. That could be a good title of a song, poem, or a book. Dark songs.
Well, yeah, it's the hero's journey, which is usually quite traumatic at the beginning, and
Hmm.
and then we get through it. It's been great to spend an hour with you, Anya. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, whatever that means to you, and
You too.
I I look forward to catching up with you in the new year.
Yes. I've got you a Christmas present. I've done you a painting.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Done you a painting. So I'll
Well,
bring it in January. I'm sure I'm meeting you in January.
I did promise to come and visit Yorkshire at some point because I've not been there for a long time, and
Mm.
it'd be nice to meet your dad.
Yeah, come visit.
And yeah, but yeah, whatever you're doing over the next few weeks, enjoy yourself. We'll be back. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you for having me on, Mark, and thanks for everything. Thanks, guys.
My pleasure. Take care.